Hello and welcome to the video. This is a quick look at this quadcopter here from a new outfit that I've never had anything in before. This is the DarwinFPV Baby APE. I've got the purple version, which just refers to the props that you get with it, and it also has the basic camera in here. There's two versions, this Baby APE that I have and the Baby APE Pro. Now, all the quad vendors that you tend to see on the channel make higher end models, and they're expensive but well spec'd and built with care. So those are the kind of things that you tend to see all the time. One of the common questions that I get on those videos is, please can you have a look at something that isn't as expensive? I can't afford that quadcopter. And that's a really great comment. Back in the earlier days when there was lots of innovation, there were lots of people making less expensive quadcopters, and most of them seem to have given up the ghost. It just seems to be the guys making the higher end stuff, ready to fly stuff, that seems to be around mostly now. However, DarwinFPV is a vendor that I think could offer lower priced, good quality quads for those who don't have really deep pockets. So at the heart of this thing, there is a VTX, 40 channel analog VTX that's switchable between pit mode 25 and 200 milliwatts. It's an F411 all-in-one flight controller that also includes a 15 amp BL Helios ESC arrangement. One set of props in the box, and it comes pretty much already set up. Now, it doesn't come with a receiver and it doesn't come with a battery, so you're going to need both of those things, but included in the box as well is a manual that shows you how it's all put together. Motors on this are little 1104 4300 kV brushless motors. They will support 2 and 3S batteries, and really you're kind of going to want to run this on 3S is my experience here, particularly if you're going to fly it outside. Some really cute features on here, things like the LEDs on the arms, and the way it's put together is actually very nice. Now, before I set it all up, I had to connect up my receiver. There are 3 pads here for the ground, 5 volts and an S-bus input, and there's loads of room inside to put the receiver wherever you can get it. So I'm just using a little FreeSky receiver here that easily fits inside the model. Really nice to see that they're leaving us enough room to easily install a receiver without having to be a Tetris expert. With that installed, let's plug it in via the port at the bottom into Betaflight and have a look around. Let's move everything. Yeah, that all looks fantastic. So let's go through this. Again, just a whistle-stop tour. So just smart audio for the VTX, configuration, standard motor direction, D-Shock 600, 8K gyro, 4K PID loop frequency. It's an F411 based flight controller, so that's fine. Everything is kind of set up. Interestingly, the D-Shock beta configuration isn't either. No current meter on this, just a voltage meter, so be aware of that. You're not going to be able to track how much you've pulled from the battery. Failsafe is set to drop, which is exactly what you want it to be. PID tuning I'll put in the dump and diff down below. You are going to have to come and spend a little bit of time in the modes tab. It's only got arm and angle set up by default. You're going to want to come in here and play with that. So I have been flying it in Horizon and Acro. It's not bad. On-screen display definitely needs a visit. There isn't anything on here. And then all of the VTX stuff is set. Again, I'll put a dump and diff down below and a link if you want to go and have a look and see how they've set it up. Let's be honest, we kind of want to see how it flies. Now, a quick hover indoors shows that it is incredibly quiet. That's an indication that it's producing the thrust very, very efficiently. Now, the little problems I'm having here are kind of micro failsafes because it is so close to the radio. But it's hovering at about a third throttle and is very, very easy to control. So let's talk about what it's like when we're outside. The first thing you'll notice is that the camera performance is not great. It's kind of like what I'd expect out of a camera 6 or 7 years ago. Now again, this is the basic version of this little quadcopter. There is a pro version that has the Ant in it. The Ant in my humble opinion, the Cadix is not a great camera, but it would definitely be an upgrade for this. Although I can see where I'm flying, and this is recorded from the DVR in the goggles, I am not really getting a lot of detail. The colour's fine, the saturation's good, the dynamic range isn't bad at all. Maybe if I spent a ton of time with a focusing chart and cracked the lens and had to play with that, I might be able to get it a little bit sharper. But this is the only thing that's really wrong with it. In terms of the flying aspect, it is really nice. It's flying around and making good progress at about 30% throttle. The performance of the whole thing is just lovely, and it's super easy to fly. Very quiet, so as soon as it's more than about 6-10 feet away, you can hardly hear the thing, and easily enough to get you in and out of trouble. Now, you can fly it fast, but I would not class this as a quad racer. You can flip and roll it, but again, I wouldn't class it as a freestyle quad. It is just a great all-rounder, particularly when you consider how much money this thing is costing. Now, I'm flying this with a Nishine 3S 550 milliamp hour battery on mine, and I'm getting well over 7 minutes of flight time, believe it or not. The voltage sag that you're seeing here is really due to the fact that, unfortunately, it's not a high C battery and it's really quite small, and you are going to have to try and keep your battery small, but it will easily carry a reasonable sized battery that will give you a nice decent flight time. This is really fun to fly, and I'm having a ball with it. Considering the amount of money this is fab. Just that camera is the thing that unfortunately is kind of marring the whole flying experience. So we'll come on to this at the end, but I would say that for me, I would probably either treat yourself to the Pro or get yourself something like one of the Runcam or Cadix cameras and swap that out. It's very easy to kind of get into the guts of the thing, and it's just a plug that you can swap the camera over. It will make all the difference to the flying experience. So as you're probably telling, I'm quite impressed with this little model, particularly kind of $80 mark. The build quality is good, but I checked some of the screws when you get yours. A couple of mine were loose, but that's usual when it's been bounced around in transport. Don't forget there's no receiver installed, so you'll have to have some fine soldering skills. The pads were pre-tinned, which was a nice touch, but it does mean that you have to have steady hands and a good soldering iron in order to get that stuff on there. It would have been nice potentially to have had a little cable already pre-installed onto those little pads on the flight controller. That would have made installation a bit easier. Camera was set to PAL on mine, which I like. It gives a little bit more real estate in terms of the on-screen display layout, and I do like the lights on the arms that light when armed. That's going to be particularly handy if you're flying it in darker conditions and if you land and you're not exactly sure where it came down. Flight time is what I like from these kind of models. This kind of 7 minutes plus makes me very happy. I am always disappointed when a little model like this only flies for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm just getting into my groove at that point, and then unfortunately I've got to bring it in and land the thing. Noise is much lower than you'd expect for this size of quad, and the performance is good, hovering around a third throttle. Now the props do push on, but do seem to stay put, but I make sure using some kind of prop removal tool to get them off so you don't damage the motors if you have to remove a prop when it breaks. Only a couple of things to be aware of with this. There aren't any prop spares in the box, so when you do eventually break a prop, you're going to have to go and order some spares. The camera performance, as I already said, is not great. A decent camera like the Runcam Nano 2 would be a huge improvement, and that costs about £15. There's also limited camera angle adjustment, so if you want to fly it really fast, you might end up having to modify the top deck so that you can get a little bit more rake on the camera. No buzzer or beeper set up by default, so be aware of that. Be careful if you're going to be flying outdoors in places that have long grass or lots of hedges that are going to eat it. The modes and OSD tab in Betaflight will definitely need visiting for setup, and again you're going to need some pretty nifty soldering skills to solder on your receiver for an S-bus connection. Spares and life expectancy is really untested here. This is the very first quad I've had in from DarwinFPV, but I've been impressed so far. This, for the kind of money, is very good. Now, they've obviously made some smart choices to get this quad down to this price point, and the fact they're not shipping it with a receiver and with an average, below average camera on this is helping them get to the price point. But this does mean that you could get a quad very quickly and easily for very cheap money, and then if you wanted to, you could upgrade things like the camera later on. It would make a perfect second quad for somebody that's learning to fly. Maybe you get a bit bored with flying a whoop around and you want something that can handle outdoors but is very forgiving and easy to fly about. This would be a great second quad for that. It is a nice quad for the money, but the camera is the letdown. I'd get the Pro version, as I said, or replace the camera with something better, and you'll have a fab little park flyer for not a lot of cash. Thank you for spending your time today watching that video. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you're trying to learn about a subject, then check out the playlist. All of my videos are organised into easy to follow playlists that if you're trying to learn a topic will take you from the basics right the way through to some pretty advanced stuff.